For the 30th anniversary of Fargo, we're taking a look back at the Coen Brothers classic and whipping up a boozy ice cream float called the Chipper Winter. Today, on the Martini Shot. Hello and welcome to the Martini Shot, the home of movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails. Before we talk about Fargo, let's whip ourselves up a drink. So I wanted this drink to be something that would invoke the winter aesthetic of the film, but because we're rolling into the warmer months in the States, I wanted it to fit into the spring and summer season as well. So we'll be doing a boozy raspberry float, utilizing vanilla ice cream for the snowy aesthetic and some homemade raspberry puree to bloody it up a bit. Despite the amount of dessert in this cocktail, the alcohol can still creep up on you. So take it easy with these, or else your toilet is gonna end up looking like the end of this movie. Let's get into it. So this one is pretty simple. You don't need a shaker or anything. You can just build it right in the glass. You're probably gonna want something a little bit on the taller side. And we're first gonna start with our spirit, which is going to be 2 ounces of whiskey. Just be sure you're not using any of the expensive stuff or something like this. And now we're gonna be using a little bit of raspberry puree. It's pretty simple to make at home. You just throw the following ingredients into a blender and blend until it's nice and smooth. You're gonna be needing about 6 ounces of fresh raspberries, which usually comes out to around 1.5 cups. Add a cup of sugar for sweetness, and then finally a 1/4 cup of water just to give it a little bit more body. And then you're gonna be left with a good amount of raspberry puree. We're gonna be using it at different stages in this cocktail to make a nice little layering effect. So for now, go ahead and add 1 ounce. And now we're gonna be adding a little bit of soda water to give it some body. And you can fill up the glass about halfway. And now is the part where we can start adding our vanilla ice cream. You'll probably be able to get about 1 or 2 decent sized scoops in. I'm using a smaller scooper, so I'm gonna be adding a little bit more. And once you've got enough ice cream, go ahead and top it up with about 1 ounce more of the raspberry puree. And there you go, now you have the Chipper Winter. Super nice and creamy, obviously. The tartness and the sweetness from that raspberry puree is very, very nice. Obviously pairs very well alongside the more dessert notes of the vanilla ice cream. Despite everything piled on top of it, the whiskey is actually pretty prominent here. You're definitely gonna be tasting booze, but it's not going to be very overpowering or stinging. It's definitely going to be neutered a little bit because of all that creaminess. And that soda water, you know, it's making it a lot lighter than you would expect. It's still pretty thick and creamy, but not as overbearingly so if you were to use, say, like a cola with this. So for me personally, who's not the biggest fan of a lot of dessert cocktails, I think this appeals to my sensibilities a lot more. Summer's coming up, and I think this is a very solid cocktail that can be enjoyed in the heat and potentially even in the cold once the winter starts rolling around. Now that we have our drink, let's talk about Fargo. Fargo has been one of those all-timer films that has been in my blind spot until most recently. I've seen the Coen Brothers' other standouts from their run, your Big Lebowskis, your Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I've even seen Lady Killers, which just by looking at Tom Hanks' hair, you know you can skip that one. But not Fargo, arguably their most enduring and long-standing film thanks to that long-running series I'll probably get around to watching sometime before I die. So literally a few days ago, I watched Fargo for the very first time, and if you're wondering if you should do the same, all I've got to say is, oh yeah, you betcha. This is one of those quintessential modern crime noir films that just work. The crime is perfectly imperfect, fumbled only by the incompetence of those who commit it, and prolonged only by those who haven't dared dip their toes into that kind of depravity. Everyone plays their role to a T, from the main cast to people who only get about 30 seconds of screen time. And of course, there's the biggest character of them all, the North. The area is realized in such a detail-oriented way, made to look like both a frozen, almost mythical wasteland, while also containing honest people with good in their heart. And some with bad in their heart, but really it's more stupidity than evil. Everything I know and enjoy about the brotherly duo is on full display here, with a film that's effortlessly funny without reaching for a joke, darkly disturbing when it needs to be, and more than deserving of its status as a certified classic. If you don't know the story, there's a lot of moving parts at play here. There's Jerry Lundengard, a lowly dealership sales manager who's in need of some money. He gets the bright idea to stage a kidnapping of his wife so that he can get his wealthy father-in-law to pay the ransom and make out with half of the cash. The other half would go to criminals Carl and Geyer, an odd couple of a pairing who seem like they're bound to cut each other's throats before this is all said and done. A few stray murders later, and that wraps in Police Chief Marge Gunderson, who sets out on a mission to discover the culprits of the killings at the kind of slow and cheery pace you'd expect from a small-town cop. There's a lot of interweaving parts here, but everything flows together so fluidly while compounding on itself to make everything infinitely worse by the second. Jerry, played by William H. Macy, will have you wanting to punch your TV the entire time. Jerry isn't evil, he's just spineless and stupid, which may actually be worse. He wears the facade of a happy family man when he's really not. Maybe he feels emasculated in the shadow of his successful, judgy father-in-law Wade, or maybe he just feels he deserves more than he's gotten out of life. Either way, he gets wrapped up in a world he is not prepared for, and Macy does a phenomenal job generating only the slightest amount of empathy you can have for a man who orchestrated the kidnapping of his own wife. Doing the kidnapping is Carl, played by Steve Buscemi, and Geyer, played by Peter Stormare. They essentially fill the archetypes you'd expect from these actors, but that doesn't make them any less entertaining. Carl is the snappy ankle biter of the pairing, willing to run his mouth at any given moment, believing it can get him through any situation. Geyer, on the other hand, hardly ever utters a word, preferring to get results with his actions. Buscemi obviously gets a lot of praise for his role here, even nabbing an Oscar nom, but I don't think you should be sleeping on Stormare either. To me, he's honestly way more fascinating. He's often distant, cold, and hardly human. At times, it doesn't even seem like he wants the money. His actions seem driven on a primal instinct even he may not totally understand, really feeling like a precursor to Anton Chigurh, who we would get almost a decade later. And of course, Oscar winner Frances McDormand as Marge. Such an endearing and lovable role, treating the severity of these crimes in a way that shows she cares but refuses to let them faze her. She's the true heart of this whole thing, putting on a brave face while entering a world she doesn't fully comprehend. She sees this in both tracking down the murderers and her journey into the big city, but by the end, it doesn't completely jade her, but reassures her in the little things she has. It's such a tricky role that could have infantilized or dumbed down the protagonist were it not in capable hands, both from a directing and acting standpoint. Also, shout out to John Carroll Lynch as her husband Norm. He just brings that much needed warmth that I feel both helps Marge and the audience. The snowy land is utilized in striking fashion, often having the wide expanses of pure white that somehow feel empty but active. Obviously, it's used to add further emphasis to objects and color, but it can fully envelop you at times, giving you a well-earned cold feeling that both coincides with the crimes and contrasts with the writing. This may be one of the Coen's best scripts, not overtly complicated, but not trying to push too hard. There's a lot of simplicity in the comedy here, in the repeating of phrases, the juxtaposition of terrible images with the howdy-doody nature of the characters, and of course, that regional accent.
Yeah, looks pretty bad.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty good.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, the darker moments are no less impactful. Sure, it's kind of funny to see someone murder someone just for talking too much, but at the same time, it's really not. I think the film has a great balance of dark humor and depressing situations that manage to not contradict and cancel one another out. Especially with the end, which, spoilers if you haven't seen it. The wood chipper, Jerry's wails of anguish as he's arrested, Marge's inability to comprehend why someone would do such terrible things just for money. It's all truly harrowing, reminding you that things like this can and do happen, but we're pulled back into the light by the warmth of our home, our loved ones, and the anticipation of better things to come. It's a depressing ending, yet one that's graced with a little less contempt for our main characters, who still believe in the good in the world. A rare occurrence for a Coen Brothers movie. So, suffice to say, I loved this. While I'm not sure if this pushes its way to the very top of my Coen Brothers ranking, it makes a hell of an argument for it. The plot is winding, yet also simple and tight. While the film contains some truly iconic character work that I was unknowingly aware of before even watching the film, speaking to the true impact they've left on pop culture. Its mixture of the mundane and the murderous is expertly done, proving both good and evil can come from the unlikeliest of places. So when are those brothers kissing and making up again? Because we need a lot more of this and a lot less of whatever Honey Don't was trying to be. For my rating, I'm feeling 4.5 ice scrapers out of 5. Guys, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Martini Shot. Be sure to let me know your thoughts about Fargo down in the comments below. And if you like what you saw here and would like to see more, don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow me across all social media channels. Those links are down in the description below. If you enjoy movie reviews and movie-themed cocktails, be sure to check out my website, martinishot.blog. Until next time, thank you again for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Live deliciously, but please remember to drink responsibly.